1 minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio. Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, executive producer of the Female Solution radio show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. What if you could live to be 120 years old and remain active, healthy, alert, and vibrant? Our bodies are made up of cells that are constantly rejuvenating. So if we take proper care of ourselves, we can literally defy aging. Join us every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time to learn about self-care from Suson Essentials on the Female Solution Blog Talk radio show. Learn how to help your body and your cells feel rejuvenated each day through proper nutrition, sleep, frequency medicine, and many unconventional methods of self-care. I'm Jodi Suson. Join me and my amazing guests by calling in at 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak. We'll help you achieve a breakthrough in your health today.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning with self-care on the Female Solution Blog Talk Radio. So we're going to have a series, and my guest has been here before, Dr. Frank Lawlis, and we will be talking about the spiritual awakening and how to support yourself within that, because it's happening, people. May as well get the support while you can. Dr. Lawlis, he's amazing. He's in the green room right now. And he understands, he's not only a doctor, but he understands the power of music, shamanic drumming, and so much more that I'm going to let him tell you about. He's the leading consultant to the Dr. Phil Show. He provides the world with self-care and self-healing. And he did this, well, he has his clinic, which is a Lawlis and Peavy Centers. But he made a huge impact on my life because he created, well, because he's also my friend, but he created the BAUD. And I think we talk about it on flipping every show. The BAUD is the bioacoustical utilization device, the epitome of self-care, and it uses sound frequency to do a reset on the neural network of the brain. So what does that mean to you? You can be triggered by something in your past. You get rid of the trigger, you keep the memory, but you're no longer reactive to that person, situation, or thing. And Dr. Frank will talk more about it, but it was originally used to help people with pain. It's used for anxiety, stress, addiction, food sensitivities. I've reversed, I don't even know how many food sensitivities with this. Let's bring him on, shall we? Okay, and we all know, I say this every show, technology is not my gift, but so just bear with me as I do the clicks. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Hi. Do I not look good? I mean, I am happy I'm sitting here with you.
It is a great morning.
Yeah.
It looks like we are kind of getting through with our rainy season a little bit. So we're going to have some sunshine this week, I understand. And so that's going to brighten our whole spirit.
Yeah, well, so I love the rain. I love the rain as much as I love the sunshine. So, and I like to walk in the rain. So,
well, my upbringing was that we celebrated the rain. In fact, when I was raised in West Texas, which I called the desert, and basically what we had going on is when it rained, we got school off.
Oh yeah, because it flooded, right?
Yeah, because that was and when I got involved with the Native Americans, they also was there. I wouldn't call it they worshiped the rain, but they basically honored and respected the rain so much that basically this was like a holiday to them. So I think we've gotten a little bit too much for balance. I always look for balance, but at the same time, I think it's always healthy to have rain, and it's a sign that that we're nurturing ourselves, and the earth is nurturing itself.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. So first of all, thank you for being back on the show.
Always have fun. It's always a very positive thing for my life because of you, Jodi, and all the things that happen. My passion in life is basically healing, and I think that some of the things that I've learned, I love to share, even though I might speak in scientist language. I think the idea is that we are all responsible for ourselves, and we can help ourselves get well from disease, and we can also make ourselves have certain kinds of lifestyle diseases. So we have a certain responsibility. I'll have to share with you kind of a childhood story that goes back and made a huge difference in my life. First of all, I have to explain that that I was raised with really wonderful parents. So anything I say, I don't want anybody to feel like that I have any issue with being raised. They were both teachers. They're both wonderful people, and so I have great respect for what they did with me and my sister. But nevertheless, when I was in ninth grade, I had a great friend by the name of Tom. Tom and I were buddies. We were brothers. We basically did everything together. And one of the things that we learned was that we could take care of each other. At least that's what our mothers thought, because both of our mothers and fathers worked. So that if we got sick at the same time, which is quite often, and programmed, is that basically they would allow us to be together and take care of each other. And so this became kind of a source of endeavor, in the sense that we wanted to be sick together because we had fun.
Right. It's day off and playtime. Okay.
So we went through the childhood diseases.
Right.
With the intent of that this would be something that we would do as kind of a celebration of life. So when we had the chicken pox together, we had the mumps together, and our next vision was that we were going to have the measles together. And so we intentionally went around and found people who had measles, and we licked their faces. And sure enough, we got the measles together. And of course, all of these were pretty light endeavors, and we got to stay, a week or so sharing that space. But one day I started running a temperature, and I had really severe leg pain and other kinds of symptoms that Tom did not. And so I was very lonely, as I had to stay at home by myself while I would naturally go through a rehabilitation process. But I didn't get well on schedule. So things kind of changed, because at one time the doctor made a home visit. Those were back in the days where the doctor did come to your home.
Oh, yeah, same here. We had that too. My sister was in an oxygen tent, so no, he was here at our lot. Yeah.
And in my town, we didn't have a hospital, so that kind of made it necessary. But I remember the doctor was talking to my parents, and he said the magic words. He said, "If he's not better by tomorrow, I'm going to put him in an iron lung."
In a what?
In an iron lung. That's why you treat polio.
Oh.
Then.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have the vaccination at that time.
And what is an iron lung?
It's basically a big chamber that because you lose the power of your lungs, you can suffocate. And so basically it pumped pressure as it pumped in and out of air pressure so that you basically could breathe.
Okay.
And it also usually meant that you had permanent paralysis of your legs.
Wow.
It was a scourge at that time when I was growing up that we would get polio. And so it scared me to death. And so after he left, I said, I've had enough of this nonsense. I need to get well by tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that was urgency, because I didn't want to have crippled legs. And so I basically got well in 24 hours. I did a lot of imagery in terms of breathing, and keep in mind that I was 9 or 10 years old, so I was doing everything just by instinct.
Right.
And so I was back in school in a day or two, and that kind of gave me this notion that I could make myself healthy or healthier. And all I had to do basically was to breathe right and eat right. And that kind of attitude prevailed throughout my adolescence. I did not have any sick days after that until I got out of school. So that kind of self-healing was a big lesson at that time, and continues to be. So I have this, I think that we all have gifts of health that we don't realize.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and what you just spoke about was mindset. You choose every single moment of your life how you want to show up, how you want to be, and what you want to have, and what you want to bring into your life. Period.
I think that basically goes back to my present emphasis is on resilience. We often think that resilience is the same thing as persistence. It's not. It's basically, resilience is this kind of long-term ideal of our own strengths and as well as weaknesses. So what happens when we deal with a challenge, and that also seems to be a persistent factor in all of our lives, is we rarely get through life without challenges. We have life challenges, we have stage challenges, I have to make various adjustments throughout life. And as we meet those challenges, we have to call on our resilience. And that resilience is what our strengths are, what our faith is, what are the health, our dimensions that we control our lives, or we think we control our lives. And when it's an old Chinese version of sin. And I don't mean to make it a religious thing. It's just basically the definition of sin is one of those things that we use when we shoot at a target. And when we miss the target, the distance between bullseye and where our arrow landed is called the sin. So that's the original notion of sin. And I think it also pertains to our life. When we have certain values that we have in our lives, and when we deviate from those principles, our personal principles, is where we lose power.
Right. So when we live by our highest values, we're in what's called eustress. When we're not living by those highest values, we become so distressed. And I think it even shows up in our body posture. Like, I've seen people who have awakened to who they really are and found themselves. And you see these earlier pictures and they're kind of like cowered in. And then, a few years later, after going through this transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly, they're just holding their facial structure even kind of changes. I mean, yeah, you've seen that too. So, I studied under Dr. John DeMartini, who's also in Texas, like you, who's a human behaviorist and a chiropractor. And he taught me about living by my highest values. And when you're not living by your highest values, you're stressed out. And by the way, you're not really a pleasure to be around, are you? Right?
Well, you're unreal to yourself and to other people.
Right.
So people,
authentic. Yeah.
So you don't have a sense of integrity, and that goes either mentally or physically, and especially spiritually.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
So, in my many years of working with addiction, I find that kind of deviation from our highest values, especially if we have none to begin with, or that hasn't matured as we grew up, so that we remain at a very early age of development, like 13 or 14 in a 30 or 40-year-old body, then we have this deterioration of resources. And sometimes we make ourselves weaker by escape. And I think that sometimes that's what happens when we use recreational drugs is, although they can be helpful, they can also be very harmful because we lose ourselves. We lose ourselves in those drugs, and we lose our values and we lose our pride, and it all collapses.
So, like to speak to that. Another wise doctor shared with me that, like people either self-medicate, as you're mentioning, and it becomes an addiction, or then medical doctors will over-medicate healers. And I want to point out that a lot of people who are so empathic, who can feel the world, I know you're an empath, I'm an empath. I can feel the world. And if I don't bubble up and protect my energy field, I could be in a place where maybe I would want to over-medicate. Well, as you know, I wasn't self-medicating. I was being over-medicated by the medical community. And that was an easy way for the medical community to explain my erratic behaviors. And I did have erratic behaviors. Shoot, I was feeling everybody's energy. That's erratic.
Absolutely. And oftentimes we call that the empathizer. And this was noted back in Greek medicine when we talked about breast cancer, for example. And I'm not. First of all, I don't want anybody to think I'm labeling anybody with any kind of negative concept, but just to kind of report, back in Greek medicine, especially with women who had breast cancer, they considered themselves as empathizers, which meant that they gave their life away.
Yeah.
And instead of restoring their own energy, they would give their energy away so easily. And so, and almost completely. So you had these, and I also think that there's a lot of men that do that, but mostly that's
You're reading my mind, Dr. Frank.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Makes it easier.
But you have that. You do have to protect that energy in a selfless way in order for it to re-energize yourself. Otherwise, you lose your energy, you lose your vitality, and you make yourself very vulnerable.
So how do you teach people to protect their energy?
Well, there are several techniques that I use. One of the ways that I conceive of how people can basically protect themselves is to create a bubble around themselves or an egg shape. And that has to do with a certain level of environmental destiny. It's kind of like the earth has its stratospheres.
Mm-hmm.
You have your own stratospheres.
Nicely put. Nicely put.
So as one of the things that I do with patients that are struggling with their energy is I would back up 10 feet from them. And I'd say, when you feel my energy, tell me to stop. And as I slowly approach, now I may approach from the front, I may approach from the side, because when I approach from the front, this is a lot more threatening to your energy field. So a lot of people will be sensitive to my presence when I'm 3 or 4 feet from them. But when I'm next to them, it might be 6 inches. And I think that has to do with whether or not people see me as part of, my energy field as being part of them, as opposed to being confrontive with them. So
the resonance.
Yeah. So when we talk, when we converse, I stand to the side of them and face the same direction, so that they don't feel like I'm confronting them and resisting, and they have to go into a resistance. So that creates a lot greater bond between us. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. And I think that's amazing. Help me though understand, because it occurs to me. So you're on the side versus in front. And, I want to also bring into here just a definition for everybody who's tuning in today. Which, when I said that's the resonance, we all have energy. So our energy can either resonate with one another or not resonate with one another. And that can change from time to time. It's kind of like if you have a car and you have an automatic door lock or opener, you click the key fob, that resonance or that frequency will resonate with the door lock and either open or close it, or do nothing at all if it's the wrong one. Right. So now what I'm curious to understand, why does the body or the field react differently when you're in front versus on the side? How does that show up?
Well, it's usually a reflection from the person themselves. So the patient says, I feel comfortable with you on my side, as opposed to confronting me face to face. And so this is kind of like a biofeedback response, where you're using the patient's reaction to my presence, to my energy form, in terms of how best to enter with a positive bond as opposed to a negative one. And this can all be kind of invisible. that you make available. And this is very critical when I work with patients, is where I obviously don't want to come across as somebody that's judgmental, because I think judgmentalness is a very big problem.
Let me just, I'm piping in here, sorry. You don't come across as judgmental ever, like really just ever. I've known you, I think now 2+ years. And for those of you, I just want to share the story. I wanted more. I had bought my BAUD and basically just called him up. Right? Let's just call Dr. Frank. He'll know the answer to that. Didn't know you, right? But I just kind of thought there would be a connection. And so I did. But I just lost my train of thought. Silly me. We actually have to go to commercial in like a minute here. Would this be okay? We take a quick pause and, we were saying that you're not judgmental. That's right. So you are not judgmental at all. You share data points. People can choose how they want to receive those data points, but there's never been a judgment from you. There can be analysis about what you see, which is a distinction between judgment, right? And, you see what you see. I see what I see, right? So I'm going to call it like it is. How you want to receive it as a gift, right? So you can do something about it or not. It's your choice in the matter. That's how I look at things.
Well, I don't think we have time for another story, but I would like to share with you a story about the difference between the person's perception of me and what I think I'm doing.
So, why don't we do that right after the commercials? All right. Okay. All right. Give me 1 sec.
I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
Okay, and we have another window here that we're just gonna. I'm getting better at this all the time. So,
hi, I'm Jodi Suson with Suson Essentials. I started Suson Essentials in 2015 because of a personal health journey. I was over-medicated and put on 19 different medications. And yes, I reversed all my chronic diseases using plant and energy-based healing. It was amazing. At Suson Essentials, we support both consumers and businesses, and we do that with helping your employees or yourself with a food as medicine mindset. How Suson Essentials supports businesses and consumers is we teach people about a food as medicine mindset. So we support people on how to support their own immune system, how to support their brain health, how to support their emotional well-being. And we do that all with plant and an energy-based healing.
All right. We're back. We're back. Too much energy for the morning. So I'm just gonna, before you tell your story, Zelda Robinson, and I'm hoping she calls in or pops into the show this morning. So Zelda Robinson, purchased the BAUD. She came over for training, and she has some pretty phenomenal stories to share, which are now on tape because we did the training, we taped it, and after which I made for her, of course, she cut it on tape because that's what she does. We put it on video. Well, I'm doing the Jodi dance the whole time. And I'm like, okay, so this is either going to get a lot of bad press or some good press, but we'll see what happens when that thing comes out. But so let's go to your next story, shall we?
Well, this happened several years ago, but I remember it so distinctly. And I don't remember what the girl was complaining about, but we're taught in school to basically try to listen as well as you can, and be comfortable with your own kind of silence. So, because silence basically can become uncomfortable enough so that the patients can enter at their own free will, their own kind of conflicts, their own submissions of issues that they've done, so that we can create a atmosphere of freedom and support. And so as this person was trying to explain her problem, I was being very quiet and receptive. And then all of a sudden she stopped talking. And so I would just sit there and listen. And we waited for sometimes 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes. And my technique was not working very well. In fact, she was becoming more anxious. Mm-hmm. And I felt that there was kind of a resistance, and we were in kind of a power struggle in terms of who was going to speak next. And so finally she started crying. And I wanted, to be helpful. I said, what's going on? What's happening here? And I expected for her to kind of release all of her anxiety and tell me some secrets that she's been holding and so forth, because that often happens. But it didn't happen this time. And she said, she finally admitted, she said, "You remind me of my father because he would not speak to me." And as he resisted speaking to me. And so what I learned was that some of my best taught approaches just doesn't work sometimes because you're playing a different role. The patient is projecting a lot on you, which goes back to early childhood and all those other things. So it was my role not to emulate anything that would cause them anxiety, but basically it called on me to be honest and genuine, transparent.
Right.
In the sense that I have to be real. Whenever I talk to a person, I want them to know that I'm interested, I'm listening, but I'm also real. I'm not just playing a role of being a good therapist, but I'm being a human. And I think that in order not to enter that gate where you're acting like somebody else, it's important for you to share your humanness and enter into that atmosphere where the other person can also be genuine.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring this up. So I'll also say the same caveat that you said. I had the best parents, loved my parents. they're both passed. And yet, you know, the people are put into our lives to teach us lessons and so forth. And so you want to honor that. No one's perfect. And we're actually here to teach each other. So my mom, before, gosh, this is a young girl, and even into probably my teens, she would go to silence. So if somebody isn't talking to me or they're just like sitting there, I got triggered, right? And so, and I have a relationship and with Andrew, and he sometimes would go to silence, not because he was trying to be mean, but that's his way of processing, right? But I had a story around it. And so when people can become self-aware about what's your story, what do they need, do the two really have anything to do with each other? Not really.
Yeah.
The person's processing, the other person just has a trigger because somebody did something because they were probably just trying to process too, you know, you know, and then you have to make light of it because when you bring the levity in, like, okay. And so what I'm trying to say is, yeah, we're going to get triggered by somebody who's silent. We're going to get triggered by somebody who's not silent. And then when you find that out, the opportunity is to, well, first of all, heal it. But then also part of that healing, at least for me, is to bring levity to it. Like just laugh about it because it's just silly, you know, that we make up these stories in our head about shit that doesn't matter, right? They're just trying to do them. They are being actually authentic to who they are at that point in time. So.
Yeah, I think that my first job was at the University of Arkansas, and we studied the ingredients of effective relationships. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered was that regardless of our degrees, that our validation wasn't usually when we first met somebody, let's say a patient, that we establish our credibility in the first 30 seconds by showing that we understood, that we were listening, and that we're willing to walk the path toward health together. And that usually required what I call the love quotient. And I hesitate to use that because love is overused in so many different ways, but it's the only one that I can really explain that every patient that I see, I love. I have unconditional regard for, and I want for the best for them in the most genuine way I can. And that is through empathy, compassion, and genuineness.
Okay. So let's talk about love. So I think that when people say they talk about love, some people can be judgmental and say, well, how can you love so easily?
Yes.
Yeah, my response is, how do you hate so easily?
Yes. And that's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah. But it's also a choice, isn't it, Dr. Frank?
What's that?
It's also a choice, isn't it, Dr. Frank? A choice to love or a choice to hate?
It is a choice. Or you can be analytical and be aloof to all those features, which I think can happen when you have to develop some energy in what you're doing and your commitment to what you're doing, and can't just walk through it. You have to divulge a lot of your energy, and that's the reason why I usually limit myself in terms of dealing with too many patients at a time, because I just have so much concentration and focus energy. Although it's pretty easy in a lot of ways, it's sometimes a commitment.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, and we have a caller coming in. Hold on one second. Let me just. So we're bringing on caller 847-220, and I know who this one is. And now, so Zelda Speaks will be joining us at 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. this morning. Zelda is the one who purchased the BAUD, and she has a lot to tell you, Dr. Frank, about her experience. So hold on one second.
Hi, Dr. Frank. It's Andrew Calhoun.
Oh, how are you doing, Andrew?
I'm excited to have you on the call, and I've heard most of the broadcast. You know that I love your product, the BAUD. I use that for many applications. In fact, I use it for kind of meditation, and it helps me to get more grounded and to work through some things. And I love you to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I wanted to go back to some discussions you and Jodi have had about kind of reclaiming self-confidence, reclaiming the feeling of self-worth. Many people have, and I've had this happen in my life as well, where you give of yourself so much that you get drained, and you feel as though you're doing the right thing because you think you're being selfless. And as you were saying earlier, if you're not a bit selfish, or you're not going to be able to serve the best needs of others. So if you don't serve your own highest good, as Jodi says, and if you don't serve your own best needs, then you're going to tap out and not be able to be as good to helping others. You even said that just a few minutes ago about not taking on too many clients because you want to be able to focus and be as true to yourself and true to the clients that you have as possible. So I wonder if you could share a little bit of techniques that you found that work, or ideas that people can help to regain that sense of self-worth and self-confidence.
Well, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I'm writing a book on that very thing. And basically what the book contains are the various ways that historically we have discovered who we are, our resilience, and also through various cultures, that there are various rituals for just this thing of finding that particular essence of your values and your power. So let me just kind of address a couple of those approaches that's in the book. And one of them has to do with kind of the opposite of what you might think, and that is by solitude. Finding, we have a biblical reference to that in terms of Jesus walking through the garden and being 40 days tempted and going through that process. I think we also have a lot of modern day examples by people finding their own solitude and consequently finding their own, finding and discovering who they really are. So one of my favorite things is basically going through a Native American type. Well, I wouldn't call it Native American because it's so broad, and was written about by Dr. Michael Horner, and that is that you find your spiritual, who you are from a finding an animal or finding a plant or a star that represents certain parts of you. What happened that I'm most familiar with, he used a lot of Siberian examples of the shaman. I think my personal experience has been really founded in some of my experiences with the Native American rituals, in which you find that sense of power through, especially through an animal that symbolizes the value that you have. For example, you may find an eagle that basically represents the connection between you and your spiritual level, because the eagle flies higher than any other bird and consequently has supposedly has a connection with the spiritual level versus the earth level. Or you can have more examples of let's say, one of the things that I have found with cancer patients is they select a kind of cat, like a leopard or a tiger, as part of themselves, and this has become one of the symbols of a strong immunity function, as well as a strong self-determination, because of the characteristic of a cat to protect you. And so you can go through a whole dictionary. Virtually, there are dictionaries of the symbologies of animals, but I also found that people use stars. My favorite symbol that I have for myself is the guiding star. Being a pilot and a sailor, and understanding how we navigate through the waters and the earth, and we have to oriented ourselves to something that's stable, something that's always there, something that we can appreciate. And so I find that a lot of people use stars, constellations, and some people like the Celtic tradition uses the trees, the oak trees, as their symbol of stabilization and purpose. So you can go through various kinds of rituals of finding these symbols and use them. Sometimes people use them as tattoos. Some people, and I have a particular necklace that I designed that kind of reminds me of my guiding star. So that might give you some ideas where you basically go into solitude and look for those symbols that relate to your own values and your guidepost.
So where's the necklace that you designed? Is it online somewhere?
Yeah, I can find it and bring it back. I know exactly where it is. Usually it's around my neck.
So, but if it's online, I'd like to show people. I brought up the spirit animal. So, Andrew and I talk a lot about spirit animals. Andrew, do you want to share about yours or in your story?
Sure, I can
about
share
that?
about that. It was interesting how we get things which people can call coincidences or luck. Jodi and I are going to be going to a lake house actually this afternoon, driving off to the lake house on Lake Michigan, and we were there last year, and things started to happen in succession. We were on the beach, and this little toy animal washed up on the beach, and not normal. You think, well, a toy animal might be a toy soldier or a dolphin. It was a giraffe, and it was odd. So I thought, well, okay, I had some other kind of symbols of giraffes that I've been seeing from time to time. I wasn't sure about it. I thought maybe reaching for the stars, reaching for something, reaching for a higher purpose. Then we go into town and we go to the shop, and a secondhand shop, and there's this whole corner of all these giraffe items. All kinds of things, from clocks to lamps to photos and pictures, which I bought some and brought on my home. Then we go into this other store and I see this exhibit on giraffes. I thought, geez. It's really trying to get me to focus, and sometimes, and I prayed for that for many years, to make the guidance so easy to see that it hits me over the head, and I don't miss it. Because sometimes I've missed it. I've asked for things in my lifetime, and prayed and asked for specific things, and shoot, they didn't happen the next day. And then, 2 years later, they happened almost exactly as I asked. But at that point in time, I wasn't ready, wasn't thinking about it enough. I'll pass. I don't think I want that. You didn't even remember that's exactly what I asked for 2 years prior.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have hints that come to us, and we have signs. We just really need to be aware of it. And so what you're saying, that when you have these times of solitude, times of reflection, it does enable us, going back to what you said, Dr. Frank, it does enable us to really help to focus and center ourselves and absorb what we've asked for and what's really coming to us if we can just be present.
I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly my experience and observations as well. So, and in my own adventure of life, I've also had exactly the same thing happen to me, where sometimes, things happen exactly what you want, and it really doesn't mean the same thing that it might have happened 2 years before, something like that. So we're growing, and that shows that we're having some processing that we need to go through and acknowledge. So that's cool. I like that.
Any other questions,
Thank you so
Andrew?
much.
Or?
I appreciate listening to you.
Well, I appreciate listening to you.
I love it. It's a love fest, everybody. It's a love fest. So we're going to go to commercial break. I think it's a good time, just because we'll get into something else, and 5 minutes later I'll forget the commercial. And Andrew, if you have further questions that come up, I'll, you can hang on, and I think Zelda will be joining us at the 8 a.m. hour, not exactly 8 a.m. I understand. So we'll just we'll run this, and this is her advertisement. Here we go.
Do you worry about finances, family, health, job, relationships? Are you in pain? Do you feel stuck? If you answered yes to any of these questions, help is available. Don't worry, you're not alone. It's part of the human process. You only feel this way because you haven't mastered the voices in your head. No hype, just down-to-earth, solid, workable tools and techniques that you can practice daily. It's really food for the soul. Whether you want to learn how not to worry about anything, reverse type 2 diabetes, publish a book, promote your product or service, or just make extra money. To take advantage of the deal of the day, go to zeldaspeaks.com or call 312-409-6619. Mention promo code The Female Solution and get free shipping. That's zeldaspeaks.com or 312-409-6619. Stop worrying today. Visit zeldaspeaks.com.
All right, we have one more commercial to show here.
The Place of Peace pop-up is a multimodal approach that helps your body feel balanced, centered, and rejuvenated in 20 minutes or less using sound frequency, BEMF technology, aromatherapy, salt therapy, and healing music. This aligns you with the heartbeat of the universe, heightens perception, and increases mental clarity to give you what you need to take on the day. We pop up at your office, your event, retreat, or you can come to our office.
All right, we are on. And cool. Let me just put you just in the thread here, Dr. Lawlis, so that we could just, wrong one, hold on. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'm not doing a very good job. Let me do that there, right? Okay. Well, I'm going to try that. There we go. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice energy in that. So where do we find that online?
I don't.
Do you sell it? I guess I should ask, do you sell that?
No, I don't. That's a personal thing that I made for myself.
Okay. All right. Hey, we have another caller. So, Andrew, I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to take caller number 708-677. Let us know your name and where you're calling from. And you're on. Thank you for being on Self Care. You're here with Jodi Suson and Dr. Frank Lawlis. Who's calling?
Yes, Grand Rising. This is Maika, and I'm glad to be listening to your show today. And thank you for bringing such an esteemed doctor into our purview.
Well, thank you for taking time to listen.
Yes. So when I came in, and thank you for the introduction of the BAUD, I'd heard the word a couple of times within our circle, but I had no idea of what it was. So thank you for that just recent introduction of it.
Sure.
But I came in when you were talking about coming into people's, for lack of a better term, in terms of your terminology, aura, and how they would feel it at certain distances. I want you remember what I'm talking about, and also for those who came in after, right?
Yes, so you can't see us nodding, so yes. So we were talking about
good.
Other people's energy.
I wanted to ask you in relationship to that. When people sleep together, like the male and the female, they're sleeping together. How do their auras interact within that space? I know that's not the main purpose of the BAUD, but I know you probably know this information.
Well, this is a great question, and Dr. Frank, I would be grateful if you would answer that, and then I have thoughts about it as well. So go ahead, Dr. Frank.
Well, I'm not sure what the question was, but it sounded like it had to do with whether or not there's some kind of energy bonding or interaction between your energies if you sleep in the same bed. And what we know is that if that is the question, then I have to say there's several pieces of information that basically affirms that that there is some kind of level of transaction that happens when people are in the same environment, and especially when their minds are in neutral or in that sleep cycle. There is some interaction that does happen at a physical level as well as a psychological level. So that energy transfer, you might say, is interactive. We know, for example, when women live together, their periods tend to be interactive as well. So their moods begin to interact as well in a compromising way. It's fascinating to watch because
not if you're in it, honey.
Because what happens is sometimes it becomes synonymous. In other words, where you go through periods of depression together, and when you go through periods of joy together, that also happens. But you also have a kind of a compromise that also happens, and that is when one person becomes super anxious, the other person becomes super supportive. So there is that kind of way that the relationship can build on each other. I will also admit that sometimes there's disruption, like when one person is snoring, that basically makes the other person rest less well. And so that creates some distraction. So there's some pluses and minuses in both those directions. But there's definitely some evidence in my book that sleeping in the same bed over time makes you grow together in certain dimensions. For example, as you go through life, there's certain things that challenges that you have. You have challenges in your job. You have challenges as parents. And so this whole idea of sleep becomes part of life. It is part of life. And we need to have good sleep health because that is central to a lot of our physical health, such as Alzheimer's. There's some link to that and your sleep. Pain and anxiety and depression, they all relate around your quality of sleep. And I want to talk about that in a little bit more depth. But I'm more interested now in finding what Jodi has to say about this sleep together business.
Well, first, Maika, did that answer your question?
That was very thorough. I do have another question in relationship to what he said, but I want to hear what you have to say.
All right. So first of all,
go ahead.
I'm so energy sensitive that I can't sleep in a small bed with someone. Small meaning full or queen. It's got to be the biggest bed you can find because I can feel everybody's energy. I can't sleep. And there's nothing wrong with the other person. It's about my not being able to protect my energy field. Secondly, to respond to Dr. Frank saying about the snoring. So Dr. Frank, you know, I had allergies and from time to time I still have some sort of, my body reacts to some sort of environmental allergy. And so I'll put the BAUD on in bed because otherwise I'll have inflammation in my nostrils, and I'll be in bed with the BAUD for a good 30 minutes. And my sensitivity or allergy, my body's reaction just goes away. So I don't have to take a pill. And then thirdly, no pills in this family, unless it's like curcumin, So, and then thirdly, about linking sleep to disease, spot on, because as I understand it, and Dr. Frank, if you can confirm, our body does its best healing between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. So we make a concerted effort to get into bed by that time. It doesn't always happen. But, we work hard to be intentional about getting into bed by that time. It's a small thing to do, and we always feel better when we do, but then sometimes we just get carried away with whatever we have that we're doing. So, okay, so those were my thoughts. Maika, what's your next question?
Okay, well, I'm kind of like losing it at a point. Let me see if I can really capture it. Is there a way to measure the energy intensity of a person with the belief that, or maybe it may be a scientific fact, that some energies overpower other energies, like a male energy may be more powerful than a female's energy. And of course, at night when we sleep, we want our energy to just be, not to be interacting. It's our sleep. So I'm wondering, is something happening at that level?
Well, that's a very complicated process, but I will just give you some nitbits of what I consider to be some of the most fascinating aspect of this rhythm. I call it the rhythm of your energy, because like everything else, there is a rhythm that maximizes your energy and restores your energy, which to me has to both have to happen in a positive way. So as one of the things that you ask kind of fascinate me, and that is, how do you measure that kind of energy? And let me just kind of put a little history on this, because there was a German by the name of Wilhelm Reich that basically decided what?
She said she knows of him, but in case other people don't, would you share who he is?
Well, he was a kind of a he was part of the Freudian group. He was what he was considered to be the smart one of the Freudian triangle back when in the 1920s and 30s, and lived into our generation. And basically, he was considered himself a psychotherapist. I mean, a psychoanalyst, I'm sorry. And he rested his thoughts on the notion that we have energy fields. When they're depleted, it causes us vulnerability to disease such as cancer. And so he created these designs on rats, and he decided that it had to do with our sexual energy, because that's what Freud was interested in as well. So what he did, one of his experiments was he measured the vitality of the red blood cell. Now, this has to do with how rich the red blood cell was in terms of what they did, and the accumulation of of the blood, and how they basically the red blood cell is your basically energy source in your bloodstream. So he found that there were certain rats that had high level of energy in the red blood, and this is how he evaluated it. I'm not recommending it, by the way. And that is that he would take a blood sample of their blood and see how quickly the red blood cell died, because it eventually will outside the body. And we found that those rats whose red blood cells died quickly got cancer and died. This was cancer cells that he introduced into their systems. Okay. And the rats that basically had long living, they just wouldn't die at all. I mean, they ran out of time and finally just did away with them because they just wouldn't die. And basically when you injected cancer cells, the cancer cells would disappear. So that's the way he measured this kind of energy. Now you can't. I don't know if you could do that with humans or not, but he invented a way of trying to decide what were the energy sources of our energy. And what he did was he laid the electrodes throughout our bodies to see where the energy immigrated from. And he decided that Freud was right, that it had to do with sexual energy, because a lot of our energy sources were picked up by these techniques to measure that. So he created the argon box. Okay. Now, the argon box is basically nothing but a big box that you lay in or you sit in. And what it does is because of we're talking about in the 40s, where it's a lapse between the wood and you would use various kinds of metals between layers of your wood with this notion that it would keep the energy from dissipating. And so consequently, he thought he could cure cancer by people sitting in this argon box. And I know the story goes on and on and on, but it's kind of fun to think about that people have investigated this idea to a great extent. And he basically took 26 cancer patients that were in stage 4, which is basically terminal, and had them sit in this argon box for various lengths of time, and all 26 of them got well. And so he decided he would get into the financial part of it and would sold these argon boxes across state lines, which basically was against the law. He was brought into the court, and he had a pretty big ego, and so he didn't want to be defended by anybody else but himself. And he was found in contempt of court because he wouldn't show up, and he died in jail. So it's kind of a long story, but basically,
in a box. He died in a box, and he died in a box.
Well, he died in, yeah.
I mean, think about the, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So anyway, to make he's kind of a hero of mine, to tell the truth. But now people, the argon box got, you couldn't, I mean, it became illegal to sell argon boxes. But people in Europe still have argon blankets. And people, like I said, have testified to great extent with the use of their argon blankets. I've never found the use for I never have used one, so I can't testify to anything miraculous that I would try to sell. But the notion is that there are other people like Richard. He goes by Richard Rainbow, and he and I did a lot of experiments with crystals. And what we found that is as an endeavor to discover the energy field using crystals is he would submerge a person up to their neck in water, because you can test the energy in water better than in air. And he found that various measures were very difficult, even in water. He's still living, and he's created a energy force, kind of like Reiki, only calls it Shin. And basically it's a hand therapy that is really amazing stuff that happens with application of Shin. I was trained in that as well. And we did a few experiments in terms of trying to measure the energy field. And the only thing we found that was reliable was heat. Heat is an energy byproduct. And so we found that when people would find their increase in energy, that their body heat went up. And that's pretty crude, but that's the only thing so far that I have found to measure the energy field that we're talking about. That's
Maika?
Yes, and I have, yes, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm just giving you back the stage. Go ahead.
Okay, well, also, I studied that argon box and that argon blanket also. They have directions on how to make them on the internet, whereby, you're using cotton and I think it's, I can't think of the cloth. But anyways, that's available for anybody who will experiment with it. He's one of my heroes also. He is a miraculous man. So, energy. Okay, like I have a energy dial. I call her my energy dial. She has a battery pack in the back, and she has on both palms poles with electrical cords going to the back. And so when you connect both poles with your fingers, she sings, "Ring around the rosy, your pocket full of cozy." Okay, so that tells me that I'm electrical.
Yes, you are.
That I'm an electrical being, which is the energy source that we're talking about. Now, is there a way to measure electricity in terms of intensity? I guess that's what it was.
So
Intensity.
I'm going to pipe in here for a minute. So I'm going to shift the thinking. Yes, we are energy beings and we're electrical, which is why Dr. Frank's
Excuse me, Jodi.
Yeah.
Jodi, I really need him to answer my question. Could you please allow that, if he will?
Oh, sure, but I have some information that he doesn't have. But go ahead, Dr. Frank.
Well, I'm not sure what the question is, but yes, we are electrical in nature. Especially our muscles and our nerves have electrical impulses. But I have not found any reliable source where such as electrical sensitivity things, devices that have been very effective in terms of being reliable. And I can't tell you how many attempts that we made at trying to find some measure of this field, and that's within us and around us, but especially around us. It's kind of like this egg protective egg that I believe in, but I have yet to find a scientific measure of any sort that would do that, other than your own sensitivity in your hands and your own sensitivity toward doing that. Because I think it takes a human level of sensitivity to really find any source of reliable measure. So that's where I am in my own investigations.
So, and I will now pipe
Thank
in,
you.
Maika. So here's the thing. Energy, like Dr. Frank, it's very difficult to measure, but you can shift it. And that's what what the world should be focusing on. We don't need to measure it, I don't think. That's an opinion. But you can shift and change energy and the frequency. And so Dr. Frank makes that happen with the BAUD. And there's another device called the Healy that actually sends out frequencies that create homeostasis in the body. So there are lots of devices, not lots, actually a few, that will help the body transform your energy field. We know which frequencies cause harmony and which ones cause disharmony. And so you can actually select a frequency and choose that for yourself, especially if you are not balanced electrically at that point in time.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yes, and I'm interested in the BAUD. It sounds like it's really a great healing device for the community, for the world, really. Thank you so much for bringing it into existence.
Well, let me just make this note that there was, I guess, around 10 years that I devoted myself totally to measuring what this energy field. And I would tape up kind of like Reich did in terms of lining up all these electrodes around a person's body and trying to measure where that energy was, because as his Shin therapy as well as Reiki therapy makes this assumption, and I can feel it as a human being, but I have yet to find the instrumentation that would be reliable scientifically enough to make the trade to something more mechanical. I would, there's a lot of things like the magnet type mattresses that seem to have a really powerful effect, but it's nobody has really measured that energy level that other than just through magnetic forces, so electromagnetic forces. So we're still at that level of discovery.
All right, we are going to go to commercial.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Maika. And after commercial, we'll bring on Zelda Speaks from the Higher Learning Network. Hold on.
Have you ever dreamed of going to exotic places, meeting fascinating people, enjoying uplifting music, and spending nights in a luxurious hotel? Do you look forward to a relaxing vacation where you can walk along the beach or sit in a quiet park and enjoy the sunset or sunrise? Whether you're flying around the world or driving across the country, we will share travel tips that will help you stay safe while you enjoy the journey. Join me every third Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and move around with Deborah here on the Female Solutions Show. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak.
The Place of Peace pop-up is a multimodal approach that helps your body feel balanced, centered, and rejuvenated in 20 minutes or less using sound frequency, BEMF technology, aromatherapy, salt therapy, and healing music. This aligns you with the heartbeat of the universe, heightens perception, and increases mental clarity to give you what you need to take on the day. We pop up at your office, your event, retreat, or you can come to our office.
All right, and let me just switch this up a little bit here. So, the other thing I want to mention, Dr. Frank, you're talking about the vitality of the red blood cells being the energy source in the bloodstream. So, I have a PSA, public service announcement. Every time you take your phone, and I'm only doing this for a second, put it by your head or at your chest or in your pocket or against your body, you're slowing down and clumping the red blood cells. Don't do it. Just don't do it. So there's evidence on this, and actually, we're going to have the acting president for Altera on the show in 2 weeks. His name is Jim Elbridge, and Altera makes products that neutralize the effects of electromagnetic frequencies. And again, we're frequencies, and frequencies can slow down and will clump your red blood cells. And I think it's just amazing. They are they are your energy source. So don't slow down your energy source, is my point. Anything to say to that before we bring on Zelda Speaks?
Well, I'm also a consultant to various kinds of bureaucratic foundations in Washington, and like you said, this has been well documented in terms of creating problems with your energy field, with your red blood cells, and even with your white blood cells, which is your immunity powers.
Oh yeah, your leukocytes or leukocytes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So those kinds of features are kind of like alarm systems. We need to be careful that it's just like driving a car. A car is very good for your, getting from one place to the next, but we have to take responsibility and not abuse that, where we run run stop signs and so forth. So we need to honor that there is an integrity to the whole system. And if you get anything out of balance, you're in trouble. So I'm big on balancing.
Balance doctor.
Big balance issues. And that's what a lot of these therapeutic approaches are, is in reestablishing your balance with your emotional values as well as your physical attributes. So think of balance. That's a code word for today.
Yeah, thank you. Code word balance. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to bring on Zelda Speaks from the Higher Learning Network. And I'm also going to activate on the call line Andrew Calhoun again. And then we can all four talk. And so let's do this. We're adding Zelda. Good morning, Zelda. Soul sister.
Grand Rising. Hi, Dr. Lawlis.
Hey, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for being the conduit that you are, the messenger that you are.
Well, thank you.
And for bringing what you bring to the world. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. Thank you.
And thank you, Jodi, for having him on again. I was so excited when you said Dr. Lawlis is going to be on. I'm like, oh my God, I got my butt. I got my butt. I got my butt. I got my butt.
Okay, go on fast.
I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there. And it took me a year to get it, but I got it. I got it. This has been a game changer. And let me explain to you how it's been a game changer. As you can see, I wear glasses, and they're the big ones. I've been wearing glasses all my life. I remember being 14, 15, somewhere around there, and I went to the eye doctor, and the doctor said, you are this close to being legally blind. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty nasty to say to a teenager who's got a whole life ahead of them. This is how I'm thinking at 13, 14. So as life progressed, I have a very heavy astigmatism.
Me too. Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Me too.
Absolutely.
Still have it?
Yeah. In fact, I have 20/20 vision, except for my astigmatism.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, goodness. So we both have football eyes.
Yeah.
That's what the doctors refer to it as.
Yeah, because your lens can become like oval, like a football.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I have oval eyes. Thank you very much. I never thought of it like that. There's some good in everything. So thank you very much for that. But getting back to my experience as a child, when he told me that, okay, so I'm moving forward beyond that. But that thought was always in the back of my mind. So I don't know if that had anything. I'm sure it did had something to do with the astigmatism. So with that being said, the astigmatism, I'm very sensitive to light, as you well know. So I explained that to Jodi, and she says, well, maybe you should consider having the Place of Peace experience with the BAUD and the Beamer. And I don't know what either one of those are. So when I had the experience, after the experience, I'm sitting there at her office in Palatine, and after the experience, I wake up. I didn't go to sleep. She took the cover off my eyes, and there is a light directly in front of me, Dr. Lawlis. directly, directly in front of me, and I didn't have my glasses on, and I'm looking at it, and it's not bothering my eyes. And it freaked me out immediately. I was like, oh my goodness, I can see, and this light is not bothering me. What just happened? And she said, you had the BAUD. It brought my brain back to base level.
Yeah.
At birth, I was perfect. My circumstances, my environment brought that on. I'm like, oh my God, this is unreal. I thought I was in the Twilight Zone. And I'm still in the Twilight Zone. And I'm loving living in the Twilight Zone. So thank you for the BAUD. That was just so, if you don't have astigmatism, you don't understand, but I know you do. But that bright light shining in your face, it gives you a headache. It just discombobulates you, throws your energy all off, and you are not a very nice person. And I've been the kind of person like a witch with a capital B.
Like a witch with a capital B.
Yeah, I was not nice.
I love her, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So I said all that to say this. There's nothing else to say. Thank you. As Baba Kwame Sunhorse would say on my show on Monday Morning Mindfulness, thank us. Us being the universal spirit.
Yeah.
The spirit that guided you to do what you do. You are making major. So I can't wait. Well, I'm anxious, I'll say it like that, to work on my procrastination. Even though I've written several books, there's many more in me, and I know. I'm working on this sugar issue. I'm not going to even call it an addiction. I'm just going to say this sugar issue.
Well, you stop calling it mine.
Yeah, I didn't say I said this.
You stop owning it.
Yeah, I stopped saying mine because it's not mine. I'm letting it go. Yeah.
Well, just a little bonding here is that I have found that the sugar is a real poison to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I've created my own diet, basically, that has also brought me back into some level of harmony with my blood pressure, with the whole thing, using diet. And so I think that there are certain foods that we need to minimize, and sugar is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially when I found out how much sugar goes into a cookie.
Or any processed food, for God's sake.
Yeah. I was watching Dr. Oz a couple of years ago, and he says, if you're going to eat sugar, make sure you make whatever you're going to eat. So I said, let me make some oatmeal cookies. I got the recipe off of the back of an oatmeal box, and it said use 2 cups of sugar for a certain amount. 2 cups. I made the first batch. It wasn't sweet. I went back and made 3 cups. It still wasn't sweet. I went back and made 4 cups, and it was finally getting sweet. I was like, when you're eating a cookie, you're eating all sugar.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing, monk fruit. And Andrew Calhoun's going to join us. Hold on. It's a potty. A potty.
Yeah. Potty over here. It's a Frank Lawless party. It's a BAUD party. We're having a BAUD party. Hi, Andrew.
I'm going to mute you for a second, Andrew. You got that off? All right, Dolly. Well, it was the music for them.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you for a second, Andrew. You got that off? All right, Dolly. It was the music for them. Because one's wasn't good enough. All right, Dolly. It was the music for them. Hold on. So, Andrew, I'm muting you for a moment. There's something you need to turn off. Check your YouTube or Facebook or your phone, but something needs to be turned off. Check your YouTube or Facebook or your phone, but something needs to be turned off. Check your YouTube or Facebook or your phone, but something needs to be turned off.
Wow.
Are we complete? Andrew, have you?
Unmute yourself. Can't hear you.
I just unmuted him.
Okay.
Are we complete?
I hope so. I was.
Andrew,
Good.
Unmute yourself. Can't hear you.
no, it's not somebody. Okay, maybe it's not Andrew. It's someone. Are we complete?
I hope so. I was.
Andrew,
Good. Unmute yourself.
I'm going to remove you. It's not somebody. Go ahead and turn off that other thing. Come back in. Okay?
I hope so. I was.
Turn everything off.
All right. So we'll bring him right back in. He's going to go in and turn off whatever he's got. He's going to exit YouTube, exit Facebook, and all that other stuff because he's trying to support. But we'll get him right back in so we get that reverberation out. So.
And Dr. Frank, could you please share what your diet is?
Yes.
In regards to sugar?
Well, it's kind of complicated. It's basically a negative diet. I mean, I don't have any pluses. I have mostly minuses. What foods that seem to cause me problems.
Okay.
And basically, it's the synthesized food, which I consider to be sometimes these genetically altered foods like wheat. I think is a biggie, a problem.
Yes.
And there's that you get a lot of gluten issues that come from that wheat that's been regenerated and coupled with different kinds of mutations, so that it's not real anymore. And then granulated sugar, I think, is like we've already talked about, is a really nasty thing, especially for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't know why I'm so moody.
And basically, what I call this is kind of part of both of those, and that is fruit juices.
Oh yeah, huge.
Fruit juices have a lot of myths about they're like orange juice.
Yep.
Orange juice is basically sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you eat the real orange, you're getting fiber, you're getting a variety of things. So, it's still kind of a mystery to me because this is a field I'm learning about. But one of the positive things I find is strawberries. If you, when I was doing in the pain clinic program, what I discovered from other countries is that the strawberry is actually a pain treatment program. So that you eat,
really?
Yeah, so that you eat the strawberries with the green leaves, and it reduces pain significantly. And
okay, I'm going to research what's in that green leaf and all that because that's cool.
Wow.
Really,
you kind of like the whole plant is a nutritious element, and if you just take the fruit by itself, you're getting an imbalanced approach.
Wow, that is so good to hear because I never ever eat the green. Well, until today, as a Jan Levant would say, until today. About the fruit juices, very quickly, Jodi, I stopped buying fruit juices because the sugar used to make me sick in the head. Okay. And when I went to the doctor, I was having sinus problems. The ENT told me, I'm sitting in his office waiting to see him, read a yoga manual that said, stop eating wheat, stop eating bread. And my issues would clear up. And I told that to the doctor and he says, I don't believe everything you read. I stopped going to that doctor. And as a result of it, over a period of years, I developed diabetes. And that's how I met Jodi at the American Diabetic Association, where she had a booth there and I was speaking, and I reversed type 2 diabetes. And please go to diabeticdonut.com because I share a juice drink that I make every single day. Nasty, but it works. Apple, beet, cucumber, ginger, lemon, kale. I drink it every morning and diabetes stays away.
Sounds wonderful.
And I'm sticking
to it. Yummy. So it occurs to me that you could take, and first of all, let me just pause. We have Andrew back on. Welcome, Andrew Calhoun. And
I was so excited that I had the show on both on
two different channels. I was listening to it on two computers in
Yeah.
three different ways.
Wow. Wow.
Good. You know what? I love your enthusiasm, and it's not like that's the first time that's ever happened, and it's not going to be the last time it ever happened. So, not to worry. So, gosh, there's just so much to say. I guess the first thing, the strawberries with the tops. I think if someone's listening and they want to use the tops, you could take the whole strawberry, Dr. Frank, and just put it in a blender.
Yeah.
Or make it part of the salad like a green.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
That is awesome.
Well, and then the other thing for pain, I know a lot of people know that turmeric, or the active ingredient curcumin, paired with black pepper, and an acetylcysteine, nature's pain reliever. Just amazing.
How do you spell that, Jodi?
And acetyl. So I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is tell you these three letters.
Okay.
N is Nancy, A is in apple, C is in cat. You just Google NAC, and I can get it for you because I have to get you those other things anyway. But recently, the FDA is looking at pulling it and making you get a prescription to get an acetyl.
So they can make money off of it.
It's an amino acid from 1963. Sounds like you heard about it already. So it's hard to get now. It's off the shelves. Amazon doesn't sell it anymore. And my back office have a dispensary of over 50,000 products, and I'm having a struggle of getting it. So.
Wow. Just like Boswellia used to be sold at Whole Foods. It's a pain reliever. You can't find it anymore.
I have it.
You're kidding me.
I sell it.
Hold me a bottle. I'll be out there Saturday.
All righty, darling.
I'm serious.
But I'll send it to you.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just an excuse to come here anyway.
All right. So where are we picking up now? We're at Dr. Frank's diet, right? And we were talking about your cookies and the sugar. And raise a hand. Monk fruit, anybody? Anybody here using monk fruit? Yay! Who wants to talk about what it is?
Andrew.
What it is? Monk fruits it's the easiest way to think about it is it looks like sugar, and it's a 1-to-1 substitute for sugar, but it's non-glycemic, so it doesn't spike your sugar levels. In fact, when this morning, I said to Jodi, she says, I got some oatmeal with some good stuff and good nutrients in there, some walnuts and raisins. And I said, I'm not so hungry. She says, how's that? I said, I just had some of your mama's, not your mama's hot cocoa with lots of nutrients in it. And I actually think that my blood sugar is kind of high, so my brain doesn't want any food. I'm not hungry. She says, well, it's actually not blood sugar because you didn't have any sugar. You had monk fruit. It's actually the high nutrition that you just had that makes you probably not as hungry. So it's a tremendous source. You can find, people think, well, guys, that's got to be some kind of exotic thing. You got to go to a specialty store. No, you don't. You can buy monk fruit in Walmart. You can buy it in the Jewel-Osco. You can buy it in the major grocers probably around the country, as well as get it on the online retailers. It is a tremendous source for people for health, so you can get your sweetness from that instead of sugar. I mean, there are other things you can use, other substitutes for sugar. This is an easy 1-to-1. Even looks like sugar. So,
like it tastes like it.
What plant does it come from?
The monk fruit.
The monk fruit.
And it's mixed with xylitol.
Which is?
Oh, don't ask me to define it. Hold on a second. I'll look it up. XYIT. So that's the only thing.
Xylitol. Boy, I got homework to do.
So it's a natural substance found in fruits and vegetables. So it's actually derived, and it also, wow, it naturally occurs in our body.
Really?
Yeah, Dr. Frank, did you know that?
No.
No. So it's so they pair the actual monk fruit with the xylitol. The xylitol is naturally found in fruits and veggies, but apparently it naturally occurs in our body too. Now, this one time, I'm just going to say the one off where I always say, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. This is the exception to that rule because it is natural. Okay. It is okay for you to eat, and it is actually good for you to eat. And again, 0 glycemic index. So won't spike your sugar levels. That's what that means.
Wow. Okay.
Dr. Frank,
to add to the diet. Okay.
Yeah.
To the live it, not the diet.
To the what?
To the live it, not the diet.
Yeah.
To the live food experience.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's still early. It's still early.
Yeah. No, I just didn't get it. I'm like, what is she?
To the live eating plan.
Thank you. We're going to change our languaging.
Oh, yes, we are. I have a cancellation for my show for next Monday, Jodi.
Okay.
And I would love to have you on it as a guest if your schedule allows it for next Monday, because I think it's important that we not only continue this conversation, but we need to do a team effort. I'm just going to say it like that.
I would love to. So let me check at my calendar. I know I'll be out of town, but that doesn't mean that I can't, do that. Next Monday's the 14th. Is that right?
Right.
I can do that. We'll talk offline. I'll make that confirmation.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. We really need to talk about it, especially. I think I'm going to name it is your cell phone killing you or something like that? Does that sound corny?
No, and I have all the resources for that. But anyway, so let's go back though we'll discuss this offline. Let's go back to Dr. Frank. Dr. Frank, really this show is about awakening your spirit. And so we got on the topic of food. And how do you feel that food awakens or puts you to sleep?
Well, as I like to use metaphors. And if we want to use the metaphor of the automobile engine, it kind of makes sense. And that is the automobile engine works on principles of mixing air and fuel, which gets ignited. And I'm going to think about the ignition as being the body. So we have to learn how to breathe right, because now we need to focus on breathing out more than breathing in. I want to focus on that because that's been described as a new breakthrough in terms of breathing patterns. And of course, the fuel is the food that we ingest, and we all have different bodies, so we metabolize our foods differently. Like we breathe differently, we also have different foods that we have a genetic disposition for, or not. We also have family traditions that our bodies have learned to energize from. For example, I'm big on watermelon because that was the big thing when I was a kid, and it still is.
Me too.
So I'm big on watermelon and cantaloupe and those things that we got from the fields.
Not the seedless ones.
And we actually interacted in growing those things ourselves. So there's part of us that go into the foods that we prepare, that we nurture. So that has a lot to do with our own personal history. So it becomes very complex in terms of trying to design a diet that is good for everybody. So I kind of back off from trying to figure all that out because it gets really complicated. So I go from a few foods and the rest is experimentation.
So I will tell you, Dr. Frank, I do take the guesswork out for that with a blood test, and it measures inflammation against the white blood cells up for like 450 different foods, herbs, and chemicals, and determines which ones cause inflammation and which do not. And then they measure that inflammation in terms of no reaction, mild, moderate, and severe. And so, you know, if I have clients that are going to go in for surgery for something like heart surgery, you know, do the test instead.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise, it's not going to solve anything. It's fine to not take the test if you're just having some issues and you can work them out. But if you're facing surgery or you're facing some major situation, take the test, take the guesswork out.
What's the test called?
In that regard, we also have a quotes test, if you want to call it that, that we do, and it's called the a food response, and that is simply after it is an experimentation where you basically write down what foods that you've eaten and write down what emotional responses you have 15 to 30 minutes after.
Ooh.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, when I was misdiagnosed having bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and then all my emotional upheavals went away once I removed the foods. Plus, I lost 92 pounds, and I did that like in a couple months. Wow. I'm sorry, that's just easy.
Wow.
Andrew, you look like you have something to say. You got spiegels and tuchus, as my mother would say. Answer
No. You had asked me earlier. This is a little bit off topic. Back on a topic we were talking about maybe half an hour ago. Going back to the BAUD, and well, you had shared some fantastic experiences with that. Last time Dr. Lawlis was on the show, we talked about some of my experiences, such as getting rid of PTSD, which I really didn't even know that it was lingering for decades. And it didn't take but maybe two 20-minute sessions with actually driving in the car as a passenger and experiencing things. And people who are listeners don't understand the BAUD in sound frequency. And one of the ways that it works is it helps to eliminate triggers. And one of the ways it eliminates triggers is for a person to relive those things, experiences. It could be by writing them down and visualizing them. It could be from experiencing them as I did in the car and kind of experiencing the quote, fears that I had from the car injury I had so many years ago, and reliving that and having the sound frequency kind of cancel out those triggers. One of the things I'm doing right now, Dr. Frank, that you might not know about, because I work at Amen Clinics, and I was fortunate enough to have a brain scan done and see the issues that are still lingering from that traumatic brain injury I had decades ago, as well as some of the toxins that I've been exposed to over my life. And we can see that. And the integrative psychiatrist said, there's some things that aren't working quite right in your brain, but there's some things that we can do to make that better. You're not stuck with that. So some supplements that I'm taking, which are specific to areas of the brain, and also working with a hyperbaric oxygen therapy. We actually have an HBOT in our clinic that, because of COVID, hasn't been used. We're now opening that up to people to pay to use that, but my office is right next to it, and I asked the clinic director, hey, since we're not using it, can I use it? So I use the HBOT about 4, sometimes 5 times a week for an hour plus. And while I'm in there, half the time I'm in there, I've got the BAUD on. So I'm actually got a meditative state with the BAUD and helping to use a multimodal therapy to really help me. And I wanted to give the audience, now most people don't have access to a hyperbaric therapy, but it's just one example, another example of using a multimodal approach to really heighten the effects that you'd get.
I want to reemphasize exactly what you're saying. I bought a hyperbaric chamber myself, and we've used it in my clinic. And I can go through a whole list of how other people have used the hyperbaric chamber with rhythmic stimulation, and it does make a huge difference. they sell these for home use.
90 seconds.
Oh, we're going to be cut off here pretty soon.
Zelda,
She's going to shut off and say, absolutely.
You need me to do something, Jodi?
Caller who I wanted to bring on, 708-677. Zelda, will this extend if I take a call? We can go like maybe just 5
Yeah, but they got to push one right now. They got to push one right now if they want
We
to.
already did. So why don't I bring them on real quick? We'll answer the question in
60 seconds.
Okay, hold on. 708-677, you're on.
Yes, this is Maika. My question is, what is a BAUD session like? Could you describe that? What it look like?
Sure.
Thank you.
Zelda, why don't you take that on?
What is a BAUD session? Is that what I hear?
Yeah.
Okay, basically is a self-discovery where you basically use your imagery to get in touch with the kind of emotional response you have, and using the sounds of the BAUD either increase and stimulate positive things or negate negative things. And it has to do with basically a self-experimentation with the device itself.
Wow.
Yeah, my experience was the first time I didn't know what to expect, and I just sat there listening and breathing. I was focusing on my breath because I didn't know what to do mentally. So I just sat there and inhaled and exhaled. And the second experience, when I finally got the BAUD and I came home and used it, I would take that opportunity to visualize myself in a place where everything was just very peaceful. And when I did have thoughts of anxiety, I take a deeper breath and get deeper into that experience. It seems like the BAUD, I don't know if the rhythm triggered something or what, but
yeah,
it was very peaceful, and you don't want to come out of it.
Right.
Until your body temperature changes, because it does change the body temperature. Because when I was at Place of Peace with you, Jodi, that's the first thing I looked up. You were having your experience across from me, and I didn't even know. And I was like, oh, wow, did you just get a little chilly? So now I understand what the blankets are for. But maybe Dr. Lawless can explain that.
So I want to explain how I have it set it up so he can accurately describe. Okay, so Dr. Lawless, we have the PEMF mat, all right? So the pulse electromagnetic frequencies, and everyone's laying on that mat. And then we have sound frequency at 432 going pretty loud. We have essential oils, the piece, and then we have the BAUD set at 2 and 2 typically, and then as loud as their brain will allow them to have it. And during that session, which is 20 minutes, we get chilled, like really chilled. Yeah. Can you talk to us about that? Because I have no flipping idea. You go ahead if you know. Do you know, is it the BAUD that's doing this reset that lowers our body temperature, or what's happening?
Well, basically, as I said earlier, temperature has to do with energy, energy within our field. So it's reorganizing and reallocating energy that's taking away from the sources of stress, because stress increases the reactive energies within our bodies. So
is stress hot?
What?
Is stress a hot energy?
It's reorganizing your stress.
Got it.
And so consequently your body is going to shift energy. Okay. And it's going to go through chills, and then it's going to go through heat because of the reorganization that happens within the body and the mind. It's basically the manifestation of what happens when you're healing.
That's powerful.
That's cool. The manifestation of what your body goes through when it's healing.
Yes.
Well, I need to sleep with this thing on.
healing machines.
I'm going to have one for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's how I'm going to do it. Because everything I eat makes me not agreeable.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I got a new diet. Not new diet, a new live it.
Yeah.
Wow.
May I ask another question, please?
Absolutely. Dr. Frank, can you spare a couple more minutes? I know we're over time.
So when you're doing the visualization, the imagery, you can only deal with one thing at a time. Like I heard you say it can stop smoking sensation. So would a person focus while using the BAUD on that? How does that work?
Well, it's kind of like craving. You can stop smoking, you can stop eating chocolates, you can stop craving by diminishing your brain pattern that makes you think you need those things.
So, and there's something I want to add to that. Hold on. So it diminishes, just to repeat this, so it diminishes the brain pattern that makes you think that you need these things, right?
Oh, that is powerful.
Yeah. So, Maika, when I first did the BAUD in 2014 with Dr. Michelle Kukla out of Palatine, she was my psychologist, my doctor of psychology. She said, Jodi, just focus on one thing and deal with that. Well, I couldn't. I was like, my brain was on fire. Okay. So I would go from one place to the next place. And I was spewing. So I was writing stuff down on paper. And so that and my thoughts were all over the place. And so at the end of the session, I said, Michelle, well, I kind of went from place to place. She goes, well, how do you feel though? I said, I feel really good. Like I got rid of a lot of crap. And so yeah, the goal is to stay focused on that one thing and get as deep as you can, but sometimes you can't. So what I say is love yourself where you're at and do you, because you'll get there. I got there.
Yeah. You can't be impatient with yourself. You accumulate a lot of stress, a lot of issues that are going on, and in order to resolve those things, it just sometimes takes time. So give yourself a break.
What kind of time are we talking about?
Well, sometimes it takes milliseconds. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes. Sometimes it might take a year. But basically, the brain does things very quickly, very, very quickly. And it has 200 billion neurons to work with. So you can make some shifts within a split second.
Wow.
I've heard of people that basically jumped off a bridge and changed their ideas about life before they hit the water.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but that's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. And it was too late for them not to.
Well, some live to tell the story, and that's the ones that lived are the ones that related this whole issue of, all of a sudden things became very clear before they hit the water, and they said, "Oh shit."
Oops.
Wow. I don't mean to be insensitive, but that was funny. I'm sorry.
I'm just like going, we're all like, oops, sorry.
Oh, wow. I guess, a whole lot of things will come very clear as you're on your way out of here.
That's right. That's exactly right. And and the brain knows these things and is very good at making adjustments, even if it takes a millisecond.
Wow.
So it is, I just want to say it's 9:07, and I just want to, and so I want to honor, because I know Dr. Frank has to run his practice. So Dr. Frank will be on the show again, July 6th, right?
Yes.
So, mark your calendars for July 6th, and please join us again. And I'm beyond grateful. I always try not to get too mushy, but I just can't help it because I just adore you, Dr. Frank, and I love what you've done. And Deborah Smith, listen to Deborah. That will not work all the time. Change your mind during the fall.
Okay, Deborah. Good. That's a good one.
Truth be
Dr. Frank. Thank you for my whole page of notes, Dr. Frank. I got work to do. Thank you.
So we'll see you again on July 6th. I am so grateful for you to have it. Andrew, any last words on your part, or Zelda?
Thank you. I'll be back on July 6th. I love this. I'm just learning. I love it. And I can share it on Monday Morning Mindfulness. I'm just so happy. Thank you so much.
I'm going to let you have the last word, Dr. Frank, but I told you there was a surprise. And I want to tell you that Zelda and I did this videotape, and it turned out it's 28 minutes, so I can't run it on this show, but I'm going to send it to you. And it's live on YouTube. And it's about, we teach people how to use the BAUD, and she shares her experiences, which are transformational. And actually, that's not even the right word for it because it's so profound. But so that's your surprise. I'm going to send that to you later, and it's already published. And then go ahead and share because I want you to have the last word. So go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Frank, take it back out. You were about to show us something.
His necklace. Go for that, please. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was giving up on that. I wanted to show you my symbol, and it's kind of small, so I'm going to have to put it on some background. And
let me see if I can make just your screen. Hold on.
Yeah, make his bigger.
So how do I do the solo layout? Got it.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, and what is that, Dr. Frank?
I don't know what it is. It's a very ancient symbol that has to do with the components of relationship between men and women, and love, and guidance beyond ourselves.
Really?
I've seen something similar to that in indigenous tribes.
Exactly. A lot of overlay that has to do with that.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. I'm going to do a solo layout.
Oh, yeah.
So let me just do Control-4, and that's amazing. Thank you.
That is definitely an indigenous piece.
And you learn that like through your shamanic training?
Yeah. And I also, in terms of my last piece, I want to say that we have a lot of brand new developments that have to do with curing cancer, in terms of making really joyous decisions in our lives. And I think that we're going to see a lot of major changes that have to do with the COVID experience.
Oh, I agree with you on all fronts. And, if I get a cancellation, I'll bring you on like before July 6th. Because, I can flip and talk to you every day. I'm just going to say.
Include me on that call. I'll just be a bee on the wall.
All right.
Hey, to be a bee on the wall. Here's the tribe, right? Okay.
Yes, the tribe.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
The tribe.
All right. I'm going to run my my banners and the close. We already did the closing on the show, I think, right? So do I run that again on the closing?
I didn't hear it, so if you played it, it was awfully low.
And I'll let everybody else get to work. And I'm really grateful for you all.
Thank you. Thank us. See you next time, Dr. Frank. Bye, Andrew. Bye, Jodi.
Bye.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear every show in the archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. You can also hear today's show on the Female Solution Facebook page. Go to www.facebook.com/thefemalesolution. Leave your comments about today's show. You can always reach me on my website at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Watch our TV shows, listen to our radio shows, order our books, and be sure to get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family listening from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, Sheshe, India, Zanyaba, Japan, Arigato, Korea, Kamsamnida, Russia, Spasiba, Germany, Danke, Poland, John Kujon, France, Merci, Spain, Gracias, Italy, Grazie, Egypt, Shukran, Ghana, Medasi, Nigeria, Eshe, South Africa, Gabonga, Senegal, Jerez, Kenya, Asante, Israel, Toda, Pakistan, Shukriya, Afghanistan, Tashakur, Saudi Arabia, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. And may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.